Synesthesia and ego loss in my dorm room. Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by Necro Duel, where he took one tab of LSD. And here's the full report details. Alright, so here we have another first time trying LSD trip report. This is a great report, guys. Lots of strong themes just for one tab, like synesthesia, ego loss, complex internal hallucinations, thought loops, and a lot of staple effects of a powerful trip. Necro Duo tries this with a roommate while he's on campus, and remains in his dorm because of the intensity. Well, this trip speaks well for itself. It gets pretty trippy, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Here's a detailed trip report from a while back. Do with it as you please. For a long time, I didn't do any drugs, just smoked weed a handful of times. The drug education classes they made us take as children did a good job of convincing me how black and white it was that drugs are bad. However, as I started to learn on my own that it's not that simple, that not all drugs are even dangerous, I looked to branch out. I didn't love how weed made me feel, so I went straight for the most interesting drugs, psychedelics. Steven and I dosed around 6:30 p.m., sometime after we got back from dorm from the dining hall. I take a full tab, and Steven wants to take 2/3 of a tab. I tried to convince him to take the full tab, but since he had also never tried acid before, he was set on taking the 2/3. We were living in a suite with our two other friends, Kyle, who was assigned to be our trip sitter, and Jason, who was just going to do his own thing. Didn't really care we were taking acid. With the tabs under our tongues, we were trying to decide how to pass the time during the come up. Since this was my first time, I wasn't comfortable leaving the dorm for fear it would be too obvious I was on something. But Steven wanted to go longboarding. I tried to convince him out of it because I don't know if he'll hurt himself going down a hill when tripping, but he ends up going. I decide to stay in and play a game of League of Legends. At some point during my game, I start to feel noticeably different. I feel lighter. I can't really focus on the game, and I'm just giddy. The smallest things seem funny to me at this point. When I realize I won't be able to finish this game, I call upon Kyle to finish it for me. He laughs, but agrees, and wants to know how I'm feeling. I can't find all the right words, but eventually I get my point across. I take a step back, leaning against my bed, watching him play for me, which was funny in of itself, just due to Kyle always having a funny attitude. I start to feel nauseous as I start pacing back and forth, which starts to give me anxiety that the trip will be bad if I feel sick the whole time. When I look out my window, I gaze upon the sunset over Lake Ontario, and it was just breathtakingly beautiful. The sky took turns from being completely orange to completely pink, and any nausea vanishes. As it becomes more obvious that this trip is definitely ramping up, Steven opens the door. We make eye contact, and both just laugh. I thought this meant that our tripping minds were on the same wavelength, that we just telekinetically said, "Bro, this is kinda crazy, isn't it?" But then Steven asked why I was laughing, so I guess not. I asked how his longboarding was, and he said it was pretty tame, but when he started seeing distortions, he knew it was time to get back to the dorm. Steven goes to my computer and logs onto his Spotify with the idea that music at this point would be fun. And it's fairly dark in the room now, and I have an RGB keyboard with different settings as to how it lights up with different effects. Anyway, Steven puts on a rap song, and I'm just not vibing it. My nausea returns, so I tell him rap's not the way to go. He then puts on his electronic/synth playlist, and the room just transforms. The combination of the music with the glow of the keyboard transforms the room into flowing rainbow rays. I was seeing music. Each different song, Steven changes the keyboard setting, and suddenly I was on a beach. Then I was underwater. Then something happens. I'm laying down on the floor largely unable to move, but content when the current song, Manifest. I see an apple-sized creature that was the song. I don't know how else to explain it. The lyrics of the song were coming from this creature, which was intriguing. But then he says in a mocking tone, "I'm losing my mind, I'm losing my mind, I'm losing my mind," as if he was saying my own thoughts that I wasn't even aware I was having. I knew that wasn't part of the real song, that the song had just spoken to me. I got freaked the fuck out. I'm lying there, quiet for a bit as I'm just shook at what happened, when Steven says, "Kyle, don't take this the wrong way, but your face is just freaking me out right now." I started fucking laughing like it's the funniest thing I've ever heard for a solid 5 to 10 minutes. I look at my phone, and I can't remember what it is that I saw, but whatever it was makes me chuck it across the room. Hard. Jason tells me the next day I narrowly missed hitting him in the head with it. Oops, didn't mean to. I somehow made it to my bed, and I'm staring at the ceiling. Somebody had turned on the lights, so I'm looking at the popcorn ceiling, and it reminds me of a cracked desert floor. So suddenly, I am just staring at a cracked desert floor, and the sun, the light on the ceiling, moves from left to right like in a time-lapse video. When the sun is apexed, I feel unbearably hot, and when it sets, I get freezing. At this point, by the way, I don't even think I have a body anymore. Kyle gets hungry, so Steven says he'll go to late night with him. Basically the dining hall's second dinner from 8:30 to 10 p.m. For the life of me, I can't remember if Jason stays back to watch over me or if he went with them. But before they left, Kyle asked me if I want the light on or off, which fills me with relief, telling him to turn it off so I can finally escape the desert. I somehow get up from my bed and I'm now pacing back and forth. At some points, I threw my glasses so I can't really see for shit, which I think contributes to the following hallucinations. I feel euphoric. It was reminiscent of when I had taken Molly. I felt rainbows. The word euphoria always makes me think of rainbows, so that's probably where that came from. Anyways, before I know it, I am literally reliving all of the happiest moments of my life. From being in love with my ex-girlfriend, to when I was working with a kid who for some reason looked up to me and loved me like a family member, to just 3 months ago when I did Molly for the first time, and much, much more. It was the best experience I've ever had. Now I'm lying in the dark, and I'm just a consciousness without a body floating through space. I'm panicking. I don't know how to get back to Earth in this vast empty void. I don't know how to get back to my body. I don't even know if I ever actually had a body. The thought crosses my mind that this is death. If this is death, why am I just a consciousness alone in an empty void? If I am alone, then this is my void. I should be able to do what I want with it. I focus all my energy on creating, trying to create a new reality like the one I had left. And if I could create one, I could create a body to live in. I could be reborn. Well, I'll never actually know if I was successful in creating my new reality. I can't remember. The next thing I did remember was sitting up, looking to my left, and seeing Jason on one side of the room on his computer, and Kevin on the other side on his computer. Kevin looks up and gives me the classic acknowledging head nod, and I just lay back down. Now, if you're a keen listener, you may have picked up on the fact that Kevin is not actually one of my roommates. That's because he was my roommate from last year who didn't come back to school. It was a complete hallucination that took me I don't even know how long to realize. The crazy thing was that the room layout was completely different in the hallucination, back to the way it was when Kevin lived there. When I did realize I had hallucinated, I look back up and Jason starts talking to me in a way that's really out of character for him. This leads me to believe that he's not actually there, that I'm hallucinating. So I go over and sniff him. Fuck man, I don't know. The door opens again, and I sit up to see Kyle and Steven, but with someone I hadn't seen in 2 years since my first semester at the college. The guy says something like, "Hey man, I haven't seen you in a while, how you doing?" I can't really speak, and I find it so unbelievable that this guy is here, now, incidentally when I'm tripping balls. So much so that I can't tell if it's another hallucination or not. I hear Kyle mention to this guy that I'm on acid, to which he makes a surprised face. This guy pretty much had thought of me as a gamer nerd, which I am, who was straight edge though. "Ah, that's a hell of a drug," he said in a knowing tone. Our visitor takes off and I continue laying on the bed. Again, unable to really move on my bed, I experienced the first of what I came to know as thought loops. Again and again, I saw Steven walk through the door just as he did when he came back from longboarding earlier. I must have relived that about 10 times. Same thing with the guy from my first semester. At least 10 times, he walked through the door. I'm able to move again, and I have a growing sense of, if I can't ground myself now, my mind will be lost forever. So I start walking around my room trying to think of the same memories when I was reliving the best times of my life earlier, to both ground myself and calm myself. I start to think of my childhood best friend, and I start saying his name aloud over and over again to not forget, because I could feel my memory slipping away. I finally realize that I can't see for shit, and somehow I just know that if I can't see clearly, I won't be able to return to my reality. I go from panicking to looking for my glasses, to forgetting what the fuck I was doing, to panicking, to looking for my glasses, so on and so forth for a very long time. Finally, I realized that I keep forgetting what I was doing, so I press my face up against my computer monitor. I have really bad eyesight, and open a doc typing the words, "Find my glasses." So now, looking at my computer to remember what I forgot had become part of my loop, until Kyle wants to know what the fuck I've been doing this whole time and looks at my computer screen. He tells Jason he's trying to find his glasses, and Jason says, "Oh, I think he threw them at me after he threw his phone at me." He locates them, hands them to me, and I kid you not, as I put them on, the world is spinning. And when my vision is restored, the world finally stops spinning, signaling that the trip was over. And indeed it was. Relief floods over me, and I walk over to Jason, who makes some smart remark, and I just say, "It's over." As I become more in my surroundings, I see that Steven is playing League of Legends, but obviously feeling the effects of acid while playing. As a matter of fact, he was playing with Jason, who was annoyed at how poorly Steven was playing under the influence. I walk over to him, convinced that I'd taken him on as wild of a ride that I had been on, and I tell him, "Don't worry, it's over now." He proceeds to tell me that his trip wasn't all that intense. Mentioned something about his teeth, but besides that, a pretty tame trip. In the end, I was disappointed that I wasn't really aware of what happened with Steven that entire night, that I was trapped in my own drug-altered mind. There were some definite highs and definite lows of the trip, but I was mostly too embarrassed at how I looked to my other roommates to want to try tripping again for a while. Spoiler alert, I ended up tripping again months later.